everyone? Good. Thumbs up. So we'll call the meeting to order, please, at 6 o'clock, and may we have a roll call?
Mrs. Reyes,
Yes.
Mr. Nielsen,
Here.
Mrs. Contreras, Mr. Rader, Mrs. Soshanek.
Here.
Thank you. We will have a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll ask for a moment of silence. Dr. Freeman, we'll ask that you give us an update on your report, please.
Did we want me to go before board member statements, or is everybody being quiet?
No, I forgot that, but I'll do that now.
Good idea.
Thank you. Is there any board member statements?
I just like to, oops, where'd this one go here?
Thank
I'd just like to say thank you for the opportunity I think we all had this past weekend to go and participate with the National School Board Association. I got a lot out of it, and I think we're going to take some opportunity later in the month to review some of those things, but it was really good, and I appreciate that, and hopefully there's something a little good come out of that that we can share with all of you.
Thank you. Amy?
I would just like to repeat what Mr. Nielsen said. I really did learn a lot going to the conference and hearing from board members across the district and some really interesting presentations. So I'm excited to see and have those discussions later on this month.
Thank you. And I'm going to ditto that. It's been a while since I had attended. I normally don't go unless there's something worth hearing. But this one was really good. It was about a lot of the challenges that we all face in the world we live in. So it was a little different focus, at least the ones I attended, and a lot on technology and new things, innovation things. So it was actually very, very interesting. So thank you for the opportunity. With that, Dr. Freeman, I think I'm safe now, and it's your report.
Thank you, Madam President. Buenas tardes a todos, and good evening, everyone. One thing we love about the spring is the many appreciation days for school staff that fall in April and May. And we feel thankful for the efforts and contributions that we can acknowledge, especially those here in Littleton. We pride ourselves in hiring and retaining staff that are growth-oriented and resilient in their work to support our students and our community. Last week, we observed National Assistant Principals Week, and someone said assistants have the best job because they have a leadership role, but they're not responsible for everything that happens in the school. And best of all, they get to be with the students, and generally that's the students who need them most. Assistant principals make a big impact on the climate of our schools, so we celebrate their immeasurable contributions to our schools. This month, we will also celebrate school librarians, paraprofessionals, and administrative professionals day. The duties and responsibilities, these people aren't not only essential to the smooth operation of our district, but their roles also contribute to our student success overall, and we applaud and thank all of them for their dedication. Principals Day is celebrated next month across the U.S. on May 1st. So I hope you'll join me in recognizing our principals, thanking them for their selfless and often courageous service to our community. They build character and confidence in staff and students alike, and they're required to be strong leaders for their staff and students, often wading into conflict to restore order and learning. And they are leaders of learning, they are treasure hunters, and they inspire time travel dreams. We'll have more special days to recognize in May, so we'll pause on that for now. Our district talks about destinations for children all the time, and that's because we ascribe to the philosophy that all children can succeed when they can articulate their future. This is more than asking children what they want to be when they grow up. It's laying the groundwork to guide our students through their lives. They learn to start asking themselves things like, what kind of an adult do I want to be? What career path would help me meet my goals? And how can education help me get there? They envision what is their own family going to look like, and what types of service would they be interested in doing to benefit their community, the one they live in their future. What will their leisure time look like? What hobbies and recreation activities will they enjoy? Destination nights and other Kids at Hope activities in our schools take place to ensure kids are setting goals for their futures. At the Collier Business Academy, students will take part in a virtual event with essential activities, books, manipulatives sent home with students. The day of the event, Country Place virtual leadership day, and students will be showcasing leadership to community partners and community leaders. The showcase will include virtual tours, speeches, leadership lessons, and performances. The Littleton STEM Academy is hosting a literacy event in conjunction with National Junior Honor Society and Parent Teacher Association that will focus on games for parents and students. Items shared will support and promote family time while they continue to partner to grow student skills in literacy and love of reading. The Storia Vista STEM Academy celebrates home and family with the First Friday event. The parents are invited to attend their monthly Kids at Hope Students of the Month celebrations. And at Quinton STEM Academy, students had the opportunity to dress up as their future selves. There were many doctors, police officers, firefighters. They also had several movie stars, artists, and some rappers. That's not with the W. All the students were able to see themselves in a new way, and it was fun and inspiring for everybody. I want to talk a little bit about family engagement. At the close of the third term, our students hosted student-led conferences for their parents and families, and this spring marks the turn to the final stretch in the year. So students shared their progress toward goals and goals for the remainder of the school year with their families. Student work portfolios, assessment data on essential standards, focused project-based learning were all shared as evidence of growth and achievement. This spring, however, just 77% of our families participated in a conference. And we understand that many are still facing challenges from the pandemic, but this is extremely important work. Staff and students work hard to prepare for conferences. We know our working families juggle multiple schedules and family responsibilities, and our teachers do their best to be flexible. So I want to say thank you to all of the staff, students, moms and dads, nanas and papas, tias and tios who participated to support our students' growth. And for the rest of you, there's still good news because you can still get a hold of your school and schedule that conference. We'll make time for you because we know we can do more for your children when we're all working together. Each year, we recognize one of our outstanding teachers from each of our schools as a West Side Impact Teacher of the Year. And we're excited that this year this event is scheduled to be back in person again. The award ceremony will be held the first week of May at Grand Canyon University. And the board will recognize recipients the week after that at our May meeting. For the 21-22 school year, the honors go to Jeremiah Gallegos, Elizabeth Johnson, Astrid Trepak, Rahima Adawumi, Ria Ciadella, Toshio Fish, Jackie Robinson, and Melissa Hoppe. I hope I got all those right. Our health screenings and wellness benefits fair was held on March 23rd, and it's our first in-person benefits fair since the spring of 2019. Benefits fair is open to all employees and have opportunity to talk with insurance vendors and other vendors from the community to promote good health and wellness. Being health conscious means more productive and effective staff, which is as important now as ever. And this leads us right into the benefits open enrollment period, which is going on the rest of this month. Broadway Plus offered a unique experience for our Fine Arts Academy Matilda cast. Fine Arts Falcons had an opportunity to ask questions and even perform for New York Broadway star Miss Jill Pace, an actress who starred in the original Broadway production of Matilda. Matilda the Musical Junior premieres at the Fine Arts Stage for 2 special evenings on April 28th and 29th. Everyone's invited to come see the show. In closing, Madam President, I'd like to express our appreciation to Salvatore Severino for his check and donation of support of Estrella Vista Phys Ed programs, and that's all I have this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Freeman, and thank all those wonderful participants that were selected. That's awesome.
They're great.
Good thing. At this time, do we have a call to the public? No? All right, so Ms. Vanderwater, it's your turn to take the program showcase.
President Reyes, members of the governing board, Dr. Freeman, community, I am excited to present to you our program showcase for this evening. Tonight, Ms. Tina Kaufman, our Director of Exceptional Student Services, will showcase our district's special education programs and specifically share highlights from the Communication Cognitive Community for Adaptive Functioning program at the Quinton STEM Academy. As part of our commitment to help students reach their full potential, we offer several special education programs which freely and appropriately educate students identified with special needs in their least restrictive environment. Tonight we welcome Ms. Tina Kaufman.
Thank you. Good evening, President Reyes, members of the board, Dr. Freeman, executive team, and guests. I'm Tina Kaufman, the Director of Exceptional Student Services. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to showcase the amazing programs that we have here in Littleton. In addition, I'd also like to thank Don Robinson, our ESS Instructional Specialist, and Lucy Ito, our EL Instructional Specialist, for their work on the video. In Littleton, we have approximately 14% of our population who receive special education services. We are fortunate to have a full continuum of services in Littleton, most which are located here on our campuses. Let's start with, we do have 6 programs designed to meet the diverse needs of our students, and we're going to start with our developmental preschool on the Littleton campus. We have a blended model that supports the students with disabilities as well as peer models. Preschool is licensed to serve those students who are 3 years old to 5 years old who are not yet school age, or I should say kindergarten age. Next, at all 8 of our campuses, the 7 we have in person as well as the 1 virtual, we have resource services. And the resource program is designed to provide students services on their IEPs that require minimal specially designed instruction in order to successfully access the general education curriculum. Services in the resource program may be provided through a push-in or a pull-out model. It could even be a combination of those. Teachers in the program are there to support the access to the general education curriculum and to partner with their general education teachers to make sure accommodations and modifications are provided in the general education classroom. The next program that we have is Cross-Cat, or cross-categorical, and those are located at Tres Rios and Country Place. Those specialized programs are tailored to the exceptional students in need of direct intensive intervention in academic and social needs. Students in the Cross-Cat present with delays impacting their social and emotional development and acquisition of grade level skills at the same pace as their non-disabled peers. Our classrooms create a culture and climate of acceptance, high expectations, and student efficacy. Students are provided with rigorous academic instruction through a modified curriculum to help support their IEP goals as well as develop their interdependency. The next program that we have is located over at the Collier campus, and that is our behavior support program. This provides instruction tailored to the exceptional students in the need of direct, intensive behavioral intervention. Our classrooms post, teach, and reinforce classroom expectations, provide instruction in social problem-solving strategies, and practice positive social behaviors that will replace disruptive behaviors and will result in them retaining and maintaining their supportive relationships of their peers. The behavior program practices their 5 guiding principles known as the 5 R's: relationships, readiness, reinforcement, redirection, and reintegration. Next program is, so CASA is kind of differentiated. We have overall CASA, but we have them leveled out for 1 and 2. Level 1 is over at the Fine Arts Academy. And overall, the CASA program stands for, that's 3 C's, meaning communication, cognitive, and community. And it's assisted also to work on those adaptive skills, their social skills, and academics. The program provides specialized instruction tailored to the exceptional students in the need of direct, intensive communication, adaptive, social, emotional, and academic supports. And then the classrooms create a welcoming and inclusive environment, which we will provide instruction in all of those pre-academic skills as well as some grade level content for these students. And then the program that you're going to see highlighted is CASA 2, which is located at the Quentin campus. Now, these students participate and follow the same guiding principles that the CASA 1 does. However, these students have a little bit more of a moderate to severe intellectual disability or communication disability. So in the following video, you're going to see students from the CASA 2 program working on all of those activities of daily living, school-wide integration, their hygiene practices, food preparation, identifying their emotions, campus mobility, and learning how that they can advocate for themselves. So we need to remember that with this specialized population, some people discount them out, but we have to remember, as we are kids at Hope, that all kids are capable of success, no exception. Jim?
Oh, are you happy? You're already looking over there. Try again. Ready? Are you tired? Are you happy?
Put your mask on first.
Or are you? Or no? Are you sad? Or are you happy?
Look, she's pouring it out for you. I want it. Oh, there you go. You got it.
One more. Good job.
Thank you to all the staff over at Quentin who support our CASA 2 program. Once again, President Reyes, Dr. Freeman, Governing Board, Executive Team, and guests, thank you for allowing Exceptional Student Services to be showcased tonight. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Well, thank you very
Thank you.
much. How does a parent find out about these various programs, especially if it's children 3 to, prior to kindergarten? How do I find out about it?
So if your student is already enrolled in the district, you can speak
Right.
with a case manager or talk to your psychologist on the campus, and they can go through and discuss all the programs with you.
What if I'm new here and I just move here and I have no idea?
Yeah, we have a child find process. So once a month, we do have child find in the district for those students who maybe just recently moved in or that maybe they're homeschooled and we have concerns. And so they can go through the child find process. But if you're a new parent, oftentimes what happens is they are over at the Welcome Center and they ask the Welcome Center, so what kind of specialized programs do you have? And they go, you know what, let me get you connected with somebody. And then they'll send them over to my office and somebody like Cleo or myself can explain the programs to them.
Thank you, and please let everyone know that is dedicated work. It is hard, but I'm sure it's very rewarding, so thank you.
Thank you, President Reyes.
How do those kids get to school? How do they know which ones to go to? I assume they stay there all day, and then at the end of the day, somebody's got to take them back home, or they got to get back home. How does that outside the school work?
Yeah, so most of our students, I'm sorry, thank you for the question again, Mr. Nielsen. board members, is most of our students do receive transportation, and I have to tell you, we have an amazing transportation crew here in Littleton, and so we work directly with transportation to talk about the students' needs. Like, for example, if you saw one student that was heavy set looking up at the board, and she had this band around her, well, that's a gait belt. And so there might be some mobility issues, so the transportation staff is trained in how to appropriately transition her on and off the bus. So we work really closely with them, and then we do have some parents that choose to transport their own students.
Thank you, appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kaufman.
Okay, so at this time, we're going to move to the consent agenda. Has the board members had a chance to review the items on the consent agenda? And if so, I'm looking for a motion.
I would like to make the motion that we approve the consent agenda.
I will second that.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any disapprovals? Hearing none, motion will pass. Thank you. Okay, looks like it's back to you, Ms. Vandewater, for student agency and charter development information.
Thank you, President Reyes, members of the governing board, Dr. Freeman, and community. I think Mr. Verrill is pulling up the presentation. Thank you. Throughout this presentation this evening, you will hear a few of the incredible things that our school district is engaging to support student agency and character development for our staff, students, and community.
I thought everyone was looking at me. I'm like, okay.
It's frozen.
Sorry, we don't have popcorn. I wish we did.
It's attached to the item. Thank you, Mr. Verrill. Okay, I'm on this side. Yeah, thank you. Aligning to our Littleton mission of creating high-quality, comprehensive, and success-oriented learning and leading opportunities for everyone in our schools, and our district belief that our students reach their fullest academic potential through a balanced academic core curriculum, our students, staff, and community focus on developing student agency and character development. The concept of agency and character development involve, for our students, 4 distinct components, which are linked to covering future, past, and present. They focus on students setting advantageous goals, initiating action towards these goals, reflecting on and regulating progress toward these goals, and a belief in self-efficacy. Our district student agency committee developed and communicated the shared definition to guide this work, practice, and process in the Littleton School District. And I'll give you just a moment to read that. I would like to recognize our district student agency and character development committee, who collaborates around our organization's practices and philosophies to support students, staff, and community. The committee collaborates on strengths of current practice and makes recommendations for areas of improvement and/or enhancement. This year, the committee will participate in 10 collaboration sessions, and there are 29 members, 9 administrators, 14 teachers, and 6 social workers. Our educators work with our students to intentionally and progressively develop each of the aforementioned components. One example is every student across all 8 of our schools work with staff at becoming more adept at setting goals and designing pathways of learning that promote students' awareness of their current strengths and weaknesses relative to developing a sense of where they want to go today and in their future. Students maintain an agency binder or notebook, either hard copy or electronic. Students utilize this agency binder or notebook to set goals, monitor and reflect on them, and share with their families during their evening routine and/or parent-teacher-student conferences. Littleton Elementary School District is a leader in learning, caring, and growing, and believes in educating the whole child. The district has committed time, energy, and resources to becoming a Kids at Hope district, embracing the philosophy that all kids are capable of success, no exceptions. This empowering program believes every child is afforded the belief, guidance, and encouragement that creates a sense of hope and optimism, supported by a course of action needed to experience success at life's 4 major destinations: home and family, education and career, community and service, and hobbies and recreation. In an age where many schools and districts are cutting programs, Littleton is ensuring that students can thrive in the academics, the arts, and sports with the support of our Kids at Hope program. Kids at Hope is a strategic cultural framework designed to engage entire communities to support success for all children, no exceptions. Throughout the year, Littleton staff show belief in children. They connect with all children in a meaningful and a sustainable way through ACEs, and they teach children to mentally time travel to their future in those 4 destinations. Staff greet students each day by name and recite the pledge both for students and adults. In addition, students and staff reflect on the words offered in the pledge and look for ways to highlight or use skills our students possess in unique ways. Schools engage community and school in destination activities and events throughout the course of the year. Our K-8 teachers, students, and community are engaging with the character development resource called All Things EQ. All Things EQ, or Emotional Quotient, is a character development program that helps transform school culture and prepares students to show up positively to achieve academic success in school each day. The need for a universal resource came from the recommendation of the Student Agency Committee during the 2020-2021 school year. This year is the first year we are interacting with the content, and we are seeing great results. We will conduct a survey before the end of the year to get feedback from staff, since it was the first year of implementation, and we are working with the company to see data trends with discipline, attendance, social worker referrals, and student achievement. The All Things EQ brings a shared vocabulary and value system to our already strong existing culture. Each day, students and staff interact with a motto around a monthly theme. Themes include coping with change and building resiliency, social connectedness and belonging, managing stress and anxiety, intentional thinking, compassion, managing big emotions, anger, frustration, motivation, problem solving, and self-care. Parents in our community also receive weekly updates on the themes. Including parents in the EQ program provides powerful opportunity to create the shared vocabulary that supports parental efforts at school and within their home. We know that working together, we can bring the very best to our students. Please enjoy a short video that shares teachers and students developing their character through the All Things EQ program.
All right, good morning, 7th and 8th graders. The All Things EQ is an emotional intelligence program, and that's how I understand it. It's designed to give students a weekly motto. It's something to sort of hold on to and understand. What's something you're feeling good about recently? Yourself, your grades, how quarter 3 ended for you? Because it gives the kids an opportunity, an outlet to kind of let it all out and process everything that goes on in their lives. So at your table groups, what I'd like you to do is share one aha, and I'd like you to share an appreciation.
Like, I'm not struggling no more at school because I understand it more than online last year.
An appreciation I have is I appreciate my teachers for helping me get my grades up.
I like all things EQ because it gives everybody an opportunity to process, think, reflect, and then have a motto to drive.
My uncle has feelings now. Like, he used to never like show that he cared about me or nothing until he finally showed it when I was there.
Basically, we're just going throughout our day, reminding ourselves about the motto and how it's going to affect our lives and make us better as students.
Well, I'll affirm all of you. That was a really good discussion. I heard so many positive ahas.
All right, you guys ready to start the day? I think, how can I deliver it to my students where it's meaningful to them and they can truly understand it? We have been talking about I look for solutions. Can you say it? I look for solutions. Not blame. Not blame.
I hug my teddy bear, that's how I get love.
I know they're absorbing it and I know it's affecting them because at the beginning of the year, they would use kindergarten language. Now they're using words like solution, problem solve, blame. The vocabulary, the terminology, and all things EQ is coming up in their everyday conversations. I love myself. I love myself. I am strong. I am strong. And I won't give up. And I won't give up.
I find that it helps me as an educator as much as it helps the students.
When the district brought this up, it let me know that we genuinely care.
I think all things EQ ties into all learning. You're a whole human being with a whole universe inside of you. And we have to teach you emotional intelligence and historical intelligence and scientific intelligence because we want to send you out into the world really knowing who you are and trusting yourself.
In order to best serve students in the area of student agency and character development, our students and teachers have access to a screening assessment within our Illuminate assessment platform. My SABRS, which stands for My Social, Academic, and Emotional Behavior Risk Screener, is a brief tool for screening all students to gain a more complete understanding of each child's well-being and to identify those students who might be at risk. My SABRS has both a teacher and student companion assessment. The SABRS, which can be used to screen individual students across grades K-8 at the classroom level. My SABRS is grounded within a conceptual model stating that a student's success in school is not only related to his or her academic achievement, but also success within multiple behavioral domains. Students in 2nd through 8th grade take the student assessment, and kindergarten through 8th grade students have the companion screener completed by the teacher for one composite score. The data on the screen is beginning of year and middle of year 2nd through 8th grade student screener information as an example. Students who are low risk or some risk are provided with intervention supports either through the classroom teacher or the social worker in partnership with our families. We are so very fortunate in Littleton to have a social worker at each one of our school sites, in addition to supporting our ATS and online schools. School social workers play a critical role in schools and within our school community. Our social workers provide services to students to enhance their agency, well-being, character development, and improve their academic performance. Social workers have a wide range of job responsibilities. On the screen, you can see how our 7 social workers have been supporting students and families this year, providing interventions, counseling sessions, both individual and group, parent meetings, as well as family contacts. Students, teachers, and families can refer for service through our social worker team. The screener mentioned previously also assists in determining levels of support for our students through social worker services. Another resource that we have in 6th through 8th grade is called Naviance. Naviance is a comprehensive resource that helps educators assess and develop essential competencies students need to be successful after high school. The Naviance platform helps you understand students' interests, strengths, and needs so you can individualize support to help them reach their goals. Unique readiness content and activities within the program help teachers build knowledge and strengthen students' competencies in all of these essential areas. With Naviance, families can stay informed on student progress, staff are enabled to support student needs, and administrators have visibility into student outcomes. Collaboration across families, staff, and administrators creates a culture that prioritizes empowering students to stay engaged in their college and career planning and accomplishing their future goals. The College and Career Readiness Agency and Character Development tool in Naviance is available for our 6th through 8th grade students to explore areas such as grit and perseverance, career interests, navigating stressful situations, self-confidence, building a resume, and designing a learning and productivity plan for life. Our 6th through 8th grade students have access to this platform within their signature school focus course, technology, or social studies course, as well as any time outside the school. When students are agents in their learning, they are more likely to have learned how to learn, an invaluable skill that they can use throughout their lives. In Littleton, we provide rich resources and support to students and families as we assist students in achieving long-term goals, overcome adversity, and build the foundational cognitive character development skills so that they can apply agency to their own and our society's benefit. I am happy to answer any questions or hear any comments that you might have on student agency and character development.
Any questions? Yes, Mr. Mills.
I've just maybe got two of them. Kristen, student agency. I know agency from what I work with outside the school. Can you define that for me as you see it and what it is as part of the school?
Yes, President Reyes, Mr. Nielsen. Agency in our organization takes on a couple of different forms where we're helping to develop students' social skills, their emotional skills, their behavioral skills, their academic skills, and also teach them to become aware of their own strengths, weaknesses, setting goals for themselves, monitoring those goals, tracking those goals, really to understand who they are as a learner and how they best receive the information. And so through all of these different philosophies that we have and programs and platforms, we're helping them to know themselves best and access their learning, become an agent or a steward of their own path within the K-8 system and beyond.
Okay, thank you. I guess the second one is, how many students are involved with that? Is that at each school? Is it expanded so everybody gets an opportunity to be with? I want to make sure that these guys know how to do it so that when they become the political leaders of the future, they can look for solutions and not blame.
Yes.
Sorry.
That'd be agency.
Oh, that's agency, okay.
President Reyes, Member Nielsen, absolutely. Every student in our organization, kindergarten through 8th grade, is developing their own agency through the Kids at Hope philosophy, through their own agency binder, folder, hard copy or electronic. They have access to the MySabers assessment tool so we can see what their risk level might be. Our 6th through 8th grade students are the ones that have access to the Naviance program, but all children are gaining the common vocabulary through all things EQ. And on all of our campuses, that's really happening during their character development time. Every teacher on every campus has about a 15 to 20 minute block of time, mostly in the morning when they're having breakfast. It's a great time to share the weekly theme or the motto. They play a short video. They engage in conversation just like you would within the home at the dinner table. And they interact with that word, the vocabulary word, the information. And it's aligned to the information we're sending home to our families so that they also can talk to their kids within the home to expand that thinking.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
And I just have one comment. Tiered teaching, this multi-tiered teaching, amazing, because there's so much more now based on the world we live in than just, you know, the basics that we used to really focus on. So much is happening, and finding solutions is becoming something we've lost an art to do. So it is nice to know we're doing this, so thank you. And please thank all the people involved in doing it.
Thank you for the comment.
This is an information item, so it will move right on to Mr. French, employee compensation discussion.
Thank you, President Reyes, members of the governing board, Dr. Freeman, Littleton community. The district has gathered information that we will use to consider compensation increases for the coming year. This information includes neighboring district estimated raises as well as potential funding changes for the upcoming year. We polled 21 neighboring school districts. I'd like to thank HR for assisting with gathering that information about potential raises for next year. And we only had 7 responses to our request, but currently those responses range from no raises for next school year up to 5% for all staff. While Littleton will definitely be providing staff with some sort of a raise, the percentage has not been decided on. Administration feels it's more fiscally responsible to decide on raises once the legislature has finished budget negotiations for the upcoming year. There are many things that can change between now and then that could affect compensation. We do have knowns, things that have come out in the recent past that we know about next school year. One of those is the minimum inflation increase. So the minimum inflation increase for next school year is 2% to the base support level. That is in law. That is the lowest possible inflation that the governor and the legislature can provide to school districts. And that is the amount that has been in the governor and legislature's budget going up to this point. We do know that classroom site fund calculations have come out. The districts will receive $708 per weighted pupil in FY23. This is a decrease of $25 from the current fiscal year. The decrease is primarily attributable to an estimated reduction in one-time cash balances in the classroom site fund that accumulated due to the higher than forecasted revenue during the pandemic. So when the pandemic started, the JLBC, who does budget estimates, really thought that state revenues was going to take a major hit. They saw higher than expected internet sales and people were still making purchases. So that was the one-time cash that I just referred to. We do know that ASRS, which is the Arizona State Retirement System, reduced the contribution rate for both employees and employers from 12.41% to 12.17%, which is a reduction of 0.24%. This will be a savings to the district in the benefit budget and could be used for compensation increases next year. We also know that Prop 208, which would have imposed a 3.5% income tax surcharge on income over $250,000 for individuals and $500,000 for married couples filing jointly. And that money would have been put into education, officially died on March 11th. When Maricopa County Superior Court ruled the measure would violate the state's constitutional cap on public school spending. The district also budgeted, another known is the district has also budgeted an increase in employee medical costs for the coming year. We talked about this a little bit in February when we talked about medical increases. The district absorbed a 13% increase in the costs, maintaining a free employee option. There are a lot of districts that we have heard that, or some districts that we have heard that are moving away from that free option for employees. This increase is roughly a 1% average, is 1% of the average teacher salary. Another item the district has already budgeted for is the signing incentive for certified staff. The $450 signing incentive plus the additional incentive approved by the board of $450 is approximately a 1.8% increase to the average teacher salary. There are some potential bills down at the legislature that we are watching, some of which Dr. Freeman will most likely touch on this evening. The one I'd like to highlight is being called the Grand Bargain or the Grand Compromise. The concept is to provide additional funding equal to Prop 208 since the school districts lost that funding source. This would be a $750 million increase to K-12 education by providing $100 million to ADE to fund career and workforce grant programs, $100 million to create a Group B opportunity weight, $45 million to establish a 1.198 Group A weight for grades 6, 7, 8. Currently, there are only two Group A weights, one for K-8 and one 9-12. So this would be creating another weight for those middle school kids. The big amount would be a $505 million increase to the base funding limit, which equates to $325 per weighted student, above the 2% inflation that's in the governor and the legislature's budget. Right now, that totals a 9.4% increase. The grand compromise also has possible additional spending for special education. So once we know more about how the budget process is unfolding down at legislature, and if this bill has enough support to make it into the budget, we'll bring back a recommendation to the board for compensation increases. But what we wanted to do was let the board know kind of what we have on the plate now and what we're looking at. I'd be happy to answer any questions that the board has.
Questions? I just have one. So minimum inflation, the 2%, that's known, right? So that is a given.
Yes, Madam President, that is actually in statute,
Right.
that they have to provide us at least 2%. They can provide us the actual inflation amount, which is at least double that.
Right.
But that is the minimum amount that they're required to provide school districts.
Okay, so we know we're getting that. Then the 1% that you said averaged out for the 13% increase in medical cost. So, and I'm not saying I'm just asking. If we were to take that and say, okay, that makes 3%, right? But what happens to teachers that don't take that? I mean, how do you account for that when you're doing your math? So if I don't take your medical plan, I'm really not getting that 1%, right? Because what do I get? And where do you factor that in at?
Yeah, Madam President, that's not a dollar amount that we would provide to the employee. That's a cost absorption to the district, which essentially equated to 1%, which would equate to a 1% raise for the average teacher.
It's all averages.
Right, no, I understand that. I'm just, where you take it as cost absorption or you take it as, it is an absorption of 1%, right?
Yes.
Right, understand everything is guesstimates, and I get that. And then the 1.8%, again, knowing it's a guesstimate and average and all that, is based on the signing bonus that was given for signing the contracts, right?
Only the people who got both incentives.
And how many percent, what was the percentage of that? I'm just trying to figure out the math, if you're doing it, like, is that 90% of teachers, is that 40? Because it makes a big difference when you're looking at money to money, right?
Yeah, Madam President, we had, I believe 76% of our teachers get the first signing incentive. That's when we asked the board to come out and provide an additional incentive for our staff members. I don't know exactly how many teachers we got with that signing incentive, but the teachers that signed within the first 5 days got both,
Right.
while the teachers who signed after that time received the one.
But we don't know the percentage.
I have it, I can put it in the report.
Yeah, next time, I'm just curious.
We'll put it in the weekly report.
Perfect,
We'll
thank
have it
you.
with it.
So going back to how many people were surveyed, 21 schools, 7 responses, I get that. And it said it ranged from no raises to 5%. Any idea how many said no raises out of the 7 responses?
Yes,
And were they Scottsdale, Paradise Valley, or they true West Side?
No, these were true West Side
okay.
districts, Madam President. We did have one, I don't know if I want to say it out loud in a board meeting, but Glendale L is the district that, the information that I have that says they don't have any raises planned
It is,
currently.
I mean, it's public, so yeah, okay.
Tolleson High School, Tolleson Union was planning 5% or $3,500, which is ever higher. And then the other districts range in between those two levels.
Okay. No, that's good information to have when you're really, looking an apple to an apple. If you want to remain competitive, that's who you look at, right?
Right.
So appreciate that information. And that's all I have. We'll sit tight and see what legislation decides to do and then come back and see what we can do.
Thank you.
Welcome. Okay, so that was information or discussion item. Dr. Haid, you're going to discuss instructional services.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I would like the opportunity to talk about a proposed staffing or instructional service plan for school number 10. You can start the first slide, Jim. As we prepare to offer programs and staff the school at Alomar, which will be school number 10. The administration is looking to engage the board in a discussion of the possibilities of what that might look like. As the development of the community at Alomar was being planned by the Brookfield Properties, they sought an active role in the planning and development of our next community school. They cemented this commitment in 2018 by pledging a donation to assist with expenses associated with opening the school. So as the vision of this school began to develop, administration looked at academic programs that would expand our focus school models to include a school that took an accelerated, individualized approach to student learning. 3 possibilities were explored that included the Cambridge model, the International Baccalaureate or IB model, and the consideration of partnering with a third-party provider that could specialize in providing these services without having our own staff recreate the wheel. As we look towards the goal of establishing an academic program that has individualized, accelerated instruction, we determined Cambridge was not a good fit as it has benchmark assessments associated with acceleration but lacks the academic program. The IB model has academic program but needs benchmark assessments developed, which we feel is within our capabilities with the limited staff we have to perform the work. The idea of partnering with a proven third party is that we could possibly procure a program along with benchmarking to ease the strain on our current district workforce. There are some very specific parameters, however, that we would need met before recommending such a partnership to the board, and these would include a certificated workforce. There's a recruiting network outside of the traditional public school one that candidates are drawn to due to the philanthropic ideologies of nonprofit organizations. This is often the case with Teach for America and how we initially started with them. The idea of partnering with a TPP is that they attract a workforce from a different segment of the population, and this workforce might need assistance with obtaining certification, but we have the ability to help with that. An instructional delivery that promotes self-guided or self-paced focus that includes a program measure. Accelerated learning is attractive to both students and parents and is something that would broaden our school choice options. The provider must have a proven track record of innovation in working with disadvantaged communities. We're looking for an established program, not one that's an experiment or a jump start. The provider must have an existing national nonprofit partner that has an established commitment to the education of disadvantaged children, and this is the key to accessing funding outside the limits of public schools. So the next portion of the presentation will focus on the scope of work that a TPP would need to submit or provide. The IB program, we have a lot of letters going this evening, is established and does not need a scope of work developed. So we're going to focus on what it would look like for the TPP and then talk about next steps. So in the scope of work, we'll examine the areas of students, the workforce, and materials and facilities, who does what, when, and how, and this is, of course, an overall or an overview of a lot of things that would have to be more specifically determined. Then we'll look at a timeline along with next steps to determine how the board would like the administration to move forward. So first, taking a look at students, since they're our number one priority. All students will be Littleton ESD students generating ADM. Students will enroll following school choice guidelines. So in case you've forgotten, you'll probably recall that school choice has built in some preferences that include if the student is within walking distance of the school, they have a priority. There's a sibling already enrolled in the school, or if they have previously attended the school. So the first of these preferences would be the most relevant in the first year of enrollment. School number 10 will have test scores considered in the district's achievement profile as all other school sites do. And school number 10 students will follow instructional calendars established by the board. Fiscal year 23 estimates include 3 classrooms of K-5 students along with a complement of special areas, special education, EL classrooms, and gifted services. And then in FY24, we would expand these grade level offerings. Next, let's look at workforce. A TPP would provide academic instructional staffing and services in collaboration with the district for the focus of school number 10. The TPP would need to satisfy their staffing commitment with an agreed upon timeline, so if they were unable to uphold their commitment, the district could terminate the agreement and adjust accordingly. Requirements of the educational staff would mirror those of Littleton ESD staffing, and that would include holding appropriate credentials issued by the Department of Education and holding a valid fingerprint clearance card. The TPP would also be responsible for the supervision of staff employed by them, and the relevant HR requirements and guidelines such as non-discrimination would need to be followed. The TPP would also be responsible for, but not limited to, their own employee compensation and benefits, workers' compensation, and liability insurance. The TPP would provide professional development to complement the academic focus, but the district would employ complementary support staff such as custodians, building support, and those shared across campuses. We would work in collaboration with this partner as we do currently with other contractors that provide services to us such as teachers, PTs, OTs, or speech and language pathologists, to name a few. The third piece is materials and facilities. The district would provide office space, classroom space, environmental supports, things such as lighting and heating and cooling, educational technology and licenses such as Chromebooks, standard classroom equipment, licenses associated with district hardware, software. We would also provide access to board-adopted curriculum and approved supplementary materials. Now, the TPP may be granted use of other materials provided that the core materials are vetted through the governing board's adoption process. Supplementary materials are approved by the governing board per policy. However, the cost of the specialty materials or licenses that they may need for their specific program would be the responsible of the TPP after the appropriate approval of materials have gone through state or governing board requirements. The TPP would be responsible for providing updates to the district on the progress and impact of programs and services, the same as we monitor and report from all other Littleton ESD schools. And the TPP would be responsible for stewardship of district facilities and equipment, meaning any damage to the property or facilities of the district would be the responsibility of the TPP to replace or pay for the cost of the repair. So the next slide. So this slide is an overview of the timeline for both past and present. We've teased this out just a little bit with the board. In the fall of 2020, Dr. Freeman first introduced program possibilities with the 3 models that I talked about. In the spring of 2021, we modified the program considerations to the 2 models. And this evening, we're presenting instructional models for the purpose of board feedback. Moving forward in May, sometime May, June, or July, we would need to do the naming of school number 10. And then in May and June, should the board want to move forward with a TPP, we would need to release the instructional services RFP if needed. We would need to do an RFP for procurement because it would be over the threshold of $100,000. So pretty much any big purchase we have to do an RFP on. In June or July, we would award the RFP if needed. And then June, July, August, we would do the focus naming of the school, number 10 in Alomar. Of course, we involved the community and things like that. In September, October, planning for school number 10 for Alomar begins because just shortly after that, we're marketing for school choice, and we would have this online for fiscal year 23 as a choice option for the community. So next steps. The administration's asking for the board, based on discussion this evening, and I know you haven't had a lot of chance to ask questions, if we should move forward and search for a TPP or complete the work in-house using the International Baccalaureate model. So if we move forward with the TPP, the RFP considerations, I told you this was like an alphabet soup mix, would be to release the RFP in May or June, review it in June or July, and then award it in June or July. If the TPP is not a consideration, the district would begin internal preparations for an individually accelerated instructional program, which we would like it to be IB in the fall of, that's in 22. The creation of a team, regardless of the choice of a TPP or IB, would begin program development in the fall, somewhere around October. And then staff would begin preparations for school choice marketing for school choice night kickoff in 2023. And I know if Mrs. Garrison has anything to do with it, it will be in person. So the administration would be happy to answer questions or to hear discussion about this idea, with the ultimate result being, should we attempt to procure a TPP or begin the development of an IB focus for school number 10 at Alomar?
So with that, I'll open it up for questions. Amy?
I'm a little leery about this TPP model, though I fully understand the benefits that can come from it with having more access to more staff and things like that. It just makes me leery bringing someone else into our home. I'm sure you've done your research. What other districts are doing a model like this, or are we kind of like being innovative in this?
Ms. Soshnick, members of the board, this would be an innovative proposition for us that we would be exploring, which is why we need a proven partner. But I would like Dr. Freeman to expand a little bit on that notion as he's met with partners as well.
So interestingly, we did a lot of research and have sought advice of counsel and things in putting this together, but we don't want to spend any more on lawyers unless we're going to actually put meat to a plan, right? The rationale for the third party and the nonprofit partner is because these partnerships exists in about 7 or 8 other states, 26 cities, which have different laws than Arizona. So we are working in this state with a lot of constraints, but those nonprofits that are particularly interested in trying to move the needle with kids who are disadvantaged to live in poverty would love to have an entree into our state. We would be the first in Arizona, but not the first in the nation by any means.
More questions, Amy?
Not that I have formulated right now.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, this is just
Discussion. So
there's no voting tonight.
I have a lot, so go ahead.
Dr. Freeman, in one of the presentations that I went to in San Diego last weekend, one of them referred to Arizona as the wild, wild west. You could go and do anything you wanted to do, so maybe that's a way to look at it. I guess you may have answered my one question here about maintenance of the facility, but health insurance raises what we've talked about tonight, and then maintaining that facility down there at Alomar, that would be all the responsibility of the third party? We just kind of turn that building over to them? Is that what?
Mr. Nielsen, members of the board, that's a great question. Actually, the building is at Littleton, the kids are Littleton. This is just a procured service for staff and program, similar to how we would procure speech language staff that we're unable to get. And so we would provide the space. Of course, there's the cost and all that to be worked out. But the building, our people will stay maintaining the building, but if they had excessive damage or did something, there would be a clause that they would be responsible for that. But the building is Littleton's.
We'd still handle utilities, lighting, heating, and all that other stuff?
Yes, sir, yes.
Okay. And the other thing is, I guess, just when we're trying to get that finished for begin the preparation is February next year. The building is supposed to be done when? Is that to start school in July of 2023 or August?
Yeah, so fiscal year 2024 begins July 2023, and we in the past have been able to build a plant that size in about 10 months, but everything's running slower now because of supply stuff. So what we've scheduled is you guys are breaking ground in April, kind of a May to May construction plan, which means June getting your certificate of occupancy and your furniture. What we'd anticipate in addition to, maybe board visiting the campus at milestones is being able to open it up to the community for tours early in July, start bringing the staff in mid-July so it can open at the end of July on the same schedule as the other schools. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah.
I have one other comment. Again, some of the things that were mentioned in San Diego was a mere fact that the family, there was a number of school presentations that they did a family event, not an event. They said the event was not successful. What they did is tried to create a culture around this. So you'd have Alomar with those people that are around there, and maybe that's something that could be added in looking like that, is how do you get family? How do you get community local there? And you do something once a month, or you do something twice a month, whatever it might be, excuse me. But yeah, whatever it is, we need to make sure that families are involved with that. I think that's all I've got.
So mine are more probably basic now. I'm trying to just grasp the concept, okay? So
Absolutely.
I'm struggling with it a little bit, and forgive me if I asking silly questions. So this TPP model, 26 cities, it exists. I would definitely, before I would make a vote, I want to talk to some of these cities. I want to talk to some of these schools. There's got to be good things and bad things, and if we can know what they are first, really helps. So maybe they can bring us an in-Zoom tour or something. I don't know how it would work, but that would be one of the criteria I'd ask. I'm okay with being first in anything if I really know what I'm first in, so I'm good with that. Do they bring, you talked about their goal is really for staff and programming that they require. Do they bring principals, psychologists, nurses? What are they bringing? I know teachers, I got that, but what else?
So, Mrs. Reyes, members of the board, that's a great question. There would be some staff that would be ours that we would maintain control over. So what we're looking at is the hiring of a principal, a shared decision in doing that because it would be our students. They would provide the staff for education, meaning the teachers, the special areas, the special education programs that we would house there. But the school psychologist, the front office staff, the custodians, the librarian, those would be Littleton staff members. And that we believe is a good partnership in that it's not just handing our building over to someone else too, but it is an opportunity for us to get staff in areas that we have a difficult time doing.
And so if, let's just say, for simple reasons, they're bringing teachers, because that's really why we're looking at this.
Correct.
How do they do their pay scale and we do our pay scale and everybody's happy?
That's a great question.
Because I'm telling you what, if I'm a teacher here and you bring other staff, I'm not too happy if they're making more than I am.
We don't pay the teachers. So the provider contracts with the teachers. Essentially what would happen is you add up all of the people they're going to put in the building, and they're going to give us a bid, a number. And then we're going to make 10 or 11 or 12 equal installments when they invoice us for the year of service. So just like
So that includes pay, whatever it includes?
just like our insurance company.
Okay.
If you're paying 1.2 million a year, you write a check every month for 100,000.
Interesting, okay. So let's do that. We make X amount, we do invoices and it's X and I pay you and that equates to X dollars. I find out that my teacher, not our issue, but I still find out that I'm invoicing, I'm willing to pay this much money to pay a teacher this much. You can call it, dice it, slice it, but we're still paying a teacher because we're paying that invoice, right?
So
How do you keep other teachers if we're doing that and it's a huge difference in pay?
So, Mrs. Reyes, that is one of the things we actually currently deal with now. Mrs. Kaufman and I work together on contracted services because most of the people that we can't obtain are OT, PT. We've had psychologists, and they're on that company's pay schedule. They also don't contribute to the Arizona retirement system. That's always when we try to get them to come over to us, we say, well, look at your future, look at the retirement. So there is an established discrepancy in contractors currently. I can understand where there would be a bigger problem, but we wouldn't know exactly what they pay the teachers or would charge us until we actually sent something out. But it is discussions that Dr. Freeman and I have had for sure.
There's a couple other factors. So we set the minimum service, which is our instructional calendar and being ready for school.
Right.
But quite often, their teacher work year is a little longer. So they might do professional development things. If you're doing extra time, you're probably getting extra pay. they're not working around what might be traditional bargaining kind of things or those kind of things because their employer is separate.
Right.
And they can work with their employees the way they want. We know what it would cost us to deliver the instructional program. We have all the metrics and the numbers. If we do an RFP and it comes out that it's going to be more expensive to use a third party than for us to do it, we wouldn't recommend it to the board.
Okay, so you understand my question, right? I'm just, if you're doing it for, of course, staffing, but you're also looking at a budgetary model.
Right.
So, okay.
We know what it is, and part of what we don't want to do in this discussion is give away our number to the
Of
people who
course.
would be bidding.
No,
Okay.
I get that. I get hands down, ace on the table. I get all that. I'm not really asking, I'm just, I mean, I put myself, if I was working here and you're bringing a third party in to do my job, right? It doesn't feel good. If we're going, we'd have to market it, right? It'd have to, there'd have to be reasons why you do it. Of course, business is priority as well, but you just have to make, because I could imagine how I'd feel, right? I don't, and what if I wanted to leave here and go and jump on that side? Why wouldn't I go sign up and work for this TPP? I would do it in a heartbeat if I thought it was now, ASRS, good point. That's 12% of something, right? We're paying that, so you got to factor all that in, and that may be, enough. But I guess I'm not going to say any more about it, but you get my message.
Completely, Mrs.
We
Reyes.
need to really be careful sending. I get why we do it, and we may still have to do it, but I just make sure it's all comparable and whatever fair looks like. That's my issue. So I'd really want to look at that. The other thing is, we talked about, from my note, I lost my train. Oh, yeah, the donation from Brookfield. How much will that be?
Madam President, members of the board, I actually don't have that, but we can get that back to you in the board update and send that out.
So, Madam President, we received the donation of the land, but then they also are providing us $700,000 for curriculum and instructional purposes.
And how much was the donation for the land? So we had 700,000 for rooftops or whatever they're calling it.
Madam President, I believe they received I don't know off the top of my head. I was going to say, I believe they received a $2.6 million
It was assessed at
tax credit.
It was assessed at 3.4 million. They got a 30% tax credit savings. So net,
Math.
net donation, 2.5.
Something like 2.5. And what can we do with that? What do we do with that money? Where's that money slated at?
Dr. Frame, would you like to talk about I know he worked with Mrs. Kinder before she left on setting this project up.
Yeah, right now, have we deposited is it in the construction fund?
So, Madam President, the $700,000 donation, when we drew up the agreement with Brookfield, once construction begins, there is a timetable on when they have to deposit those funds.
Okay.
Those will be deposited, and then we would be able to access those funds for instructional material.
Okay. And sorry, I have a few more. So when they're bringing us their staff doesn't show up. I get that they're responsible. Who's bringing in the subs? Us, them? Because we can't find subs either, so how are you feeling that?
Oh, you mean if a teacher calls out sick?
Or that is their teacher, if you will.
Right. So, Madam President, members of the board, that would be the responsibility of them in the staffing model for them to cover absences.
Okay, so that's in their staffing model.
Same way they do it now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would assume so. Really kind of a new concept.
I think it brings up a good point, though, assurances that
Yeah.
you're not putting double kids in
Right.
one room or something.
Yeah, we don't, right, you'd have to have all that down in writing and what it looks like, and we'd have to have our lawyers look at it. Who holds liability? I mean, I know you say they credential them, they do all that, but ultimately something, what happens? Is it their law firm, our law firm? I mean, because ultimately it's our school, it's our kids. Who, would that be in the contract, tight and sealed? Yes? Okay.
Indemnity clauses and things that we've looked at different ones, and then our school attorney would make recommendations.
Tight,
and
solid.
tight.
They have to have coverage to qualify
Yeah.
as a respondent. There's multiple kinds of liability, I'm sure you're aware. So the place where the district would maintain risk would be in some form of facility negligence. Just
Oh,
like-
okay.
Just like we always do.
For students.
Otherwise, the practice negligence would be on them.
Them.
And would be on.
Does it change our liability factors when you try to cover something like that, or does that not matter?
Madam President, it should not, it doesn't with the other companies that we have, that we
Okay.
require the insurance. It doesn't change our liability, but as Dr. Freeman said, for our students, if it was a facility issue, then it is on us.
We'll ask the question of the trust before we bring it. So,
Yeah,
you know,
just,
yeah.
yeah, we have a lot of questions. Okay, and they would, again, just trying to make sure I understand who they're bringing, staff, I got it. Did you say they would bring their gifted teachers, or are we providing gifted teachers?
Madam President, they would provide the staff needed,
that.
including gifted teachers, special
Special-
area,
okay.
PE, music, whichever program, teaching program that is included in the model.
Okay. All right, that's what I have right now.
Sure.
So, yes, ma'am.
I formulated some of my other questions I had in my head. So in looking at this third party, my concern would be, I would like to see something for a longevity. I don't want them to come in for a year or two and then be like, you know what, this isn't working.
Yeah.
We're going back. And then that leaves us with trying to figure something out. So that would be a concern of mine.
Mrs. Soshnick, we did look at that, but also the other way, if it's not working for us.
Right, and
So,
yeah, but
both
I,
pieces.
both ways.
Mhm.
And then my other question would be, so let's say I'm a parent and I really want my kid at this school and I feel like he can achieve amazing things at this school. Like other schools in the valley, not at Littleton, are they going to be able to say, no, we won't accept that child for whatever reason? Because that's not something I would like.
No, Mrs. Soshnick and members of the board, this school will follow the same school choice procedures that we do with our other schools that we currently do. If a child, I'm going to pick on Dr. Fife because I heard someone reference her a while ago, but if someone at Quinton is unhappy, they can leave, but someone at school number 10, if they want to be a shark and dissect shark and love Dr. Fife, it would be the same transfer procedures and everything that occur.
Same rule. Everybody would enroll through the enrollment center, and students would be placed based on capacity, just like we do now. So the priority that Dr. Haid touched on early on was the same thing we set when we started choice, which is if you live close, if you're previously enrolled, if you have siblings. So we're not making any special rules for this school. If you want to go there and do the work, and because it's individually paced, you don't have to do 2 grade levels in a year to be able to stay there.
Two more points if I may, because this is a big deal, right? I mean, this is really,
Absolutely.
really important. How do they get teachers so abundantly to bring them here when we struggle? What's their magic?
Madam President, hopefully I'll be able to glean their magic wand and do that for the rest of that. But basically what we're looking at is they just look at a different type, a different segment of the workforce than we do. So our bread and butter is somewhat, we're looking for new teacher candidates or people in the valley that want to transfer because Littleton's so great, but they may look at people that are not in education, looking to transform them. Which is similar to Teach for America. That doesn't mean that if you are a teacher, you can't participate in that, but they have alternative certification.
They're more unexperienced?
Are they more inexperienced?
Yeah, whoever they're bringing, if they are like Teach of America, I mean, they may have 1 year in the classroom. Is that what we're looking at, you think?
Non-traditional
It could be,
route would
yes.
probably-
Okay.
You're going to have more
Okay,
non-traditional.
Okay, that does help me. So just reiterate before, I would like 1 or 2 of us to, if we can, travel at least, this is such a big deal. If we're gonna make a long-term commitment, travel, we need to see at least, hopefully there's a few of these in one state, be able to go, visit, talk, freely talk. What's the good, what's the bad? That's what I would request, and I'm sure if everybody wants to go, that's up to them. But that's what I would like. Mr. Nilsson?
I would be open to traveling.
Yeah.
I think I'm sorry.
No, that's
Madam
okay.
President, members of the board, because, I have been in some philanthropic events. We had people from national nonprofits who were interested. We had Mike Bidwell, several other business leaders, GPL, in the room. And I think a good next step before we jump on a plane would be to invite some of those people who've been working on this around the country, maybe either to an in-person or a virtual presentation to the board, that I probably could talk somebody into getting on a plane and coming here first before we all get on a plane and go somewhere else.
No, that
But
makes
I think
sense.
there's several good models in Texas that I'm aware of. But what you're gonna find is the statutes and the business rules and all of those things are so different that, but you could potentially see a program that's up and running.
Yeah, I mean, I know legislation will be different, but regardless, the concept's there, right? The teacher's in place, kids are going, they look happy,
Yeah.
you'll know.
Let me work on that.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you very much.
Thank you so much, and we will be bringing additional information forward. Thank you for my compadres and helping me with all of this newness.
Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. There are, I don't have the numbers right in front of me, I believe over 1,700 bills, 400 of them still moving, several in education. I'm not gonna go through all of those. It's been relatively quiet in the last week. And I lifted some of the narrative from Tri-Advocates, one of our consultants that we use. And there is probably 4 large issues as they pertain to public education, and Mr. French alluded to some of them. So there is a budget proposal, this grand bargain that's being discussed. It's not written down in bill form. I don't know, components of it are written in different places. One of the challenges for us is these ideas often go into budget negotiations, and we don't see them until they're negotiated and they come out in the form of a budget reconciliation bill or something like that. So it's possible that, unlike other legislation, these things migrate through the caucuses and come out in the final budget deal, which constituents haven't seen. The way they do that is in their caucus, they run a series of things they call small group meetings, where leadership will bring in 3 or 4 senators or representatives at a time and talk about what it's going to take to get their vote. And because they do that in small groups, they don't think it's a violation of open meeting law, but if we did it, we'd get in trouble.
Yeah.
So these big issues that are on the table, and Mr. French alluded to this a little bit, general fund revenues up 18%. JLBC, which met at the end of first quarter, has new estimates of funds available for ongoing initiatives, like in the base level, not one time. That is $1.3 billion that they have available to spend ongoing year after year. And if the Prop 208 thing is settled, it frees up some reserves. It goes up to $1.6 billion that they could spend every year at this revenue rate. There's, in addition to that, one-time money. So they could spend $4 or $5 billion this year between ongoing and one-time money and not go broke. That means they have a lot to fight over. The big priorities for the governor and a lot of the conservatives are to put the flat tax in place. This, of course, was all catalyzed by Prop 208. and they want to have a special session. There's a lawsuit, and actually the potential for an initiative. Actually, I think the initiative is going to be on the ballot, and basically saying that the legislature did the flat tax they voted to get around 208, and the voters voted for 208, so we're going to go back to the voters again and say, you can't do your flat tax. You have to honor the will of the voters. So their idea is a special session, which they're calling replace and accelerate. There was a phase-in schedule. Now that they have this revenue, they want to put the flat tax in faster. But replacing the language means that the objection citizens had is moot. So you repeal the contested flat tax legislation, and then you put new flat tax legislation in that you're calling different, you replace it, and you phase it in faster because you have more money. So what they're hoping to do is, if you can find a plan that satisfies the Prop 208 people and makes the governor happy on flat tax at the same time, then you have a grand bargain. So the estimate, kind of the latest estimate of what Prop 208 would have generated would be $850 million a year. Mr. French referred to $100 million to CTE. That's $750 million to K-12. Roughly $500 million in the base, $100 million in special ed, $100 million in opportunity weight, and $50 million for middle school weight. And so that gets you to 750 plus 100 is 850, which is what Prop 208 would have done. And at the same time, you let the governor have his flat tax. So because the 208 people got what they came for, additional revenue for K-12, the governor gets what he wants. Now, there is another poison pill. So we have the aggregate expenditure limit still hanging over us, and we have a percent of the budget negotiated in Prop 123, which we would exceed. So you have two legislative and constitutional issues that would keep you from spending additional money. And you have the people who want vouchers. So you can solve AEL and Prop 123 if you expand vouchers. That's the other grand bargain. So you have essentially two poison pills, flat tax and vouchers, for fixing the AEL, Prop 123, and $850 million to public schools. Almost everybody hates something about one of those things. So it seems to me, from the people I've talked to, a pretty emotionally charged proposal. You can hold to the belief that if everybody's unhappy, it must be a good compromise, and that if everybody gets something but not everything they want, it must be a good compromise. We're reserved in having any hope or faith that a good compromise might happen. But with this kind of revenue, it may be a once-in-a-generation opportunity for something like that to happen. The other things going on are still other punitive legislation. So I reference in the notes here Senate Bill 1211 from Bartow. That is where all the materials and activities that teachers are doing have to be posted online for parent review. To any degree that we can soften it, it is so onerous now that teachers would be spending their whole day planning and not with kids. I mean, you're just going to be writing down what you're going to do for work all day and not have any time to go do the stuff you wrote down. So it's a crazy intrusion, unfunded mandate. We could do things like provide the core and supplemental material information that the board's adopted. We could provide that. But anything that a teacher does that is at all nuanced relative to current events or anything like that, to both do it and post it and those kind of things would be a huge challenge, I think, for teachers. The other is, it's essentially the CRT bill, right? The things that you can't say and you can't talk about. It was defeated, so it came back as a striker. It now is in Senate Bill 1412. So they do strike everything. They take the language that we were able to get thrown out in committee or on the floor and put it in another bill to revive it. You might think of it like vampire language. It never dies or goes away. And so, you know, the difficulty with that legislation is it's got this vague, open-ended thing about you made anybody feel bad. And so anybody says that they feel bad, they can make a complaint. The complaint has to be investigated. It could be a huge administrative oversight kind of thing. And they've added all these layers of outside authorities you can complain to. So that could be a problem. I don't think, you know, critical race is something that was a law school thing that some conservative groups have used to whip up people to make, you know, kind of these outlandish charges with public school. I don't think that, I mean, I'm pretty sure in our district, and I don't really know of anywhere critical race has been taught or proposed or advocated for in schools. The same thing that they're doing now with, you can't talk about gender orientation or any kind of, you know, what you might call alternative orientation, and you can't talk about any of that with kids who are in K-3. They've made a national issue of this. We don't know anybody who was talking to little kids in K-3 about this. But there's a bunch of other stuff wrapped around it, which could be almost career dangerous for teachers. So you take the K-3 notion of, you know, you're teaching sex to 8-year-olds and then put some other things around it. If you oppose the bill, then you must be somebody who wants to teach sex to 8-year-olds. So it's a highly contentious bill. The last one is this parental rights, and that's House Bill 2161. We have been able to get some amendments on that. We have a Parent's Bill of Rights. It's in our parent student handbook right now. But what they're trying to do is add more and more penalties and for you to be able to grieve to other outside agencies instead of a complaint to the board. You can go to the Attorney General or anybody can complain. So they've made these really broad and a lot of cases problematically vague. We're still working on those, but the sentiment of the K-12 community is these are simply attacks on schools and teachers and making it harder for people to do their work. We think some of these are going to go through in some form. In some cases, we're not sure that we can defeat this legislation, but maybe we can amend it to make it less severe. Right now, things are pretty quiet because of all the budget discussions, and everybody's wondering when the governor will call a special session to deal with those special session things. Special session has its own calendar, so even though the deadline for introducing bills, hearing them in the House of Origin and committees is passed, if you do a special session, you start a new calendar just for those topics in that session. That would allow them to tackle some of these things that aren't part of moving legislation at this time. And so generally what happens is if they think they can get an agreement and have the votes, he'll call it. And so we're all going to be, I think, in sort of suspended animation while the politicians work behind the scenes to sort some of that out. The issue for us, of course, is we're trying to be conservative in what we commit to raises for everybody. And so, you know, we probably will bring back an update on money in May and maybe even June, and hopefully this doesn't go on forever. I think they're up to maybe 85 days in session, so we're a couple weeks from passing the 100-day mark. But you're throwing a special session into the middle of it, so a lot going on and probably as many unanswered questions as answered ones in the session at this point. I do have some documents, that are tracking rosters. If you have questions about other bills, I can try to respond to quickly before we close out the agenda item.
Is there questions? No, I think that's complicated enough.
Thanks.
Thanks.
So if you count on me for complicated.
It's not you, it's, you have little control of that. All right, so at this time, if there's no more discussion, just a reminder, the Alomar groundbreaking is April 26th at 5 o'clock. And then we'll have a special board meeting April 26th at 6 o'clock. So make sure you got that on your calendar. And other than that, I'll ask for a motion for adjournment.
I move that we adjourn at 7:34.
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
None opposed, motion passed. We are